Welcome. It's great to be with you today. Wherever you are, wherever you're watching, we would love you to tell us where you are, where you're watching from, and we would love to respond to that when the broadcast is over. We want to thank all our friends at High Five Live and all the good that they do. And every week, every day, there's a wonderful thought coming out from High Five Live that can inspire and bless. And today is one of those miracle days. We get to be with our new friend and hero in our lives. I say we because my wife's not here, and I know some of you miss her so much, not as much as I do. However, we're having a baby today, and she's out taking care of all that. So I got a chance to do this, and I'm grateful for her being actively involved in that part of genealogy, right? So we're really excited to have Adele Marcum with us today. She is an inspiration. Let's just tell you a little bit about her, and she can tell you more too. But think about someone who has such a commitment in their young life to get a degree in family history and genealogy, honors degree at BYU, and then immediately start working for Ancestry. And during that time, work on all kinds of wonderful international projects and beautiful programs, and like Who Do You Think You Are, and other great broadcasts that were put out. And she was busily involved in doing a lot of that, and then moved over to a wonderful opportunity to be involved in Family Search. And as she was involved in Family Search, more opportunities, especially internationally, to do remarkable things all through Europe and Africa and lots of places, in setting up wonderful processes that help people move forward in this great work. And now she's a private, we call you a genealogist?
Yeah, I guess so.
Adele's a private genealogist that specializes in German and a little Italian, right?
Yep.
And anything else you want her to help with, because she knows how to do all of that. So we're really grateful to be here, especially anybody that knows about German genealogy, because I served my mission in Germany, so we can talk about that. We're excited to have you here, and we'd love to know, at a very young age, what got you involved in this remarkable work?
Well, it's actually my name. I was named after a 2 times great aunt, Adele, who's German, on my mom's side. I was named after Adele, and then my middle name is Maureen, after my dad's mom, who's I'm very
You're a walking genealogy person.
I am. I was meant to be a genealogist. So I was named after my great aunt Adele, but I didn't really know her. I grew up in Milwaukee, but she was in a nursing home. She had Parkinson's and was in a nursing home for my early life. And I just remember her as being, hunched over in a wheelchair. My parents would bribe me to see her with candy, and she died when I was 8 or 9 years old, and I didn't really know her. And my mom's family would say, "Oh, you're just like Aunt Adele. You look like this." She would say that same thing. And when I was an angsty teenager, I had a young women's leader suggest that if I wanted to know who I was, that I needed to find out about my family history, particularly about my Aunt Adele. And so that's what I did. I took the beginning genealogy class at BYU, and it was 2 credits. I was supposed to spend, 4 or 6 hours a week, and I ended up spending like 20. That was my freshman year, first semester at BYU. And I fell in love with it. And when I found out it was a major at BYU, I switched immediately. It was awesome. I never looked back. It's been so wonderful.
That's amazing. I can imagine when you're a little girl and they kept saying, "You're just like your Aunt Adele," and then thinking back about, you mean my sweet little hunched over lady in the wheelchair?
I don't drool that much, do I?
How do I relate to that? But it's such a magic thing to get to know what they're really like.
It is.
Their other life.
Yeah, and I remember the first time, this is back in the Stone Age, I guess, prior, I was looking at microfilm, and I remember being in the BYU Family History Library in the basement when I used to be there at the Harold Bealey Library. And I went through the 1920 census, and I remember when I found her name on the 1920 census, I stopped and I started bawling, because I knew that she was real because I knew her, but there she was. And it was the most powerful experience. I still can visualize myself being there.
That is amazing. And we all can have those experiences.
Yes.
We all can find moments from the past that just absolutely inspire and catch fire inside of us. That's such an exciting example to everyone
Yeah.
else. That's remarkable.
And Family Search and other resources are making it even easier to have those kind of experiences.
Yeah, in fact, they send us hints all the time, so we don't have to go find them. They're after us. It's great. So you got involved in that, and like you said, with Aunt Adele, those were miraculous moments, but you've had many miraculous moments, and I think our wonderful people would love to hear about that, your remarkable experiences in life. Do you want to share some of that?
Yeah. I think one of the two that come to mind, first of all, was how after that experience with Aunt Adele and finding her on the 1920 census, I was able, from then on, I was able to find over 100 names of the family that needed ordinances. My mom's the only member of the church in her family, and so that was wide open. And that was my freshman year, and I went with my bishop and several of my ward members from my freshman ward. We went to the Provo Temple and did baptisms, and I sat there and watched everyone be baptized. I was last, and I remember being in the font with my bishop who's baptizing us, and I didn't even look. I just felt there was a change of feeling, and I just knew that it was Aunt Adele's name that I was about to do the baptism for her. And it was palpable. Everyone, and she was there. I know that, and I felt it, and that was a miracle to me. To all of that brought together of like the thinning of the veil of just being able to find her and to connect to her and feel like family with her. The other miracle that comes to my mind is when I worked at Family Search. I was responsible for publishing records of genealogical value for Europe and the Caribbean and South America, Central America. And one particular instance, we had in Family Search had microfilmed records prior for Haiti. And during the 2013 to 2015 period, that's when they were first digitizing the microfilm records and putting them online. We had made an effort to do that, and we had digitized the records we had previously microfilmed for Haiti and put them online. And there were probably 30,000 records, not a big collection, but it was something. And on a Thursday in April of 2015, we had received a letter through the lawyers, Curtin and McConkie, that we needed to take those records down. The government of Haiti had asked us to cease and desist, pull those records down. We were heartbroken, but we complied, of course, and took them down, spent all day Thursday removing them from the website. On Sunday morning, President Monson announced a temple in Haiti. And I looked up to the sky and I was like, Heavenly Father, what is that all about? And what are we going to do? That they will need records the people of Haiti need records. And we just took all of those 30,000 records down. What are we going to do? And so on Monday, our group got together, including our field relations manager, Manny Sanhuesa, who we tried to come up with a plan, and we went forward and we fasted and we prayed and we did everything that we could. Manny especially he was there. He would go to Haiti and try to meet with them and try to negotiate, but for over 8 months, nothing. There was no moving of the dial, and we were heartbroken. We're like, we don't know what to do. And then out of the blue, Manny calls I think it was a Friday. He called and said, I have to talk to you. And he told me that the government of Haiti had reached out to him and apologized and said we could publish whatever. And actually they had indexed on their own millions of records of their civil registration. And would we want those indexes? So to me, God is definitely in the details, and he does keep his promises. And even though on that Sunday morning, my fist to heaven, what are you doing? Couldn't figure out how we were going to make up for the loss of 30,000 records. The Lord made up for it.
With millions of more.
With millions more. And right now there's over 21 million in that collection. So the Lord is definitely.
It is remarkable.
Yeah.
Wow. And probably because they felt so bad about the fact that taking them down, they're willing to give you the rest of them.
Yes.
So the whole process had purpose, but
Yes.
in the midst of it all, like in
Mhm.
all of our lives, in the midst of it
Yeah.
all, it's hard to see the end from the beginning. But
Absolutely.
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What a beautiful story. And I imagine you see remarkable stories all the time, because miracle after miracle, that's the way family history works. Now, somehow, one of the blessings of family history is that it helps heal things. There's something about family history work that helps heal intergenerational issues and stuff. Have you experienced some of that?
Yes. Yeah. One of the reasons that I got started as such an angsty teenager, because I didn't know who I was. I didn't feel like I had a good place in this world. I wasn't sure who I was connected to, even though I have a good family. There is, as with most families, there is some dysfunction, and definitely had inherited some of that. I had an experience where family history and temple work have helped heal my heart and helped me forgive. I have a grandfather, my mother's father. My mother is the oldest of 3 children, and her parents divorced when she was 3 or 4. So very young. She didn't really have much experience with her father. He wasn't much in her life. I don't remember him very much. And when he died, when I was 18, I remember the phone call from my uncle telling me that my grandfather had died. I was blank, apathetic about it. I was like, oh, okay. Because I didn't really know him. I didn't really care. When I got into family history, I realized that we're all children of God, and that all the stories I had been told about my grandfather were that he did this, he had affairs, he did all these things. And I had a very negative view of him. And I, in my pride, decided that I wasn't going to research his family. I was not going to see that his temple work was done. I was just going to leave it alone, because I blamed him. I thought he was the reason for so much anguish in my family. And maybe rightly so, but it was my pride. I recognize that. But I kept in my heart a desire to know the truth. And as I continued researching family history, researching other lines, and attending the temple and worshiping there, I felt my heart soften towards my grandfather. And I remember the day in the temple, I was in the Mount Oaks temple, and I just felt this love for my grandfather that I never imagined I could feel.
Wow.
I didn't understand why he had made the choices that he had made, or why things happened, but I felt that I could forgive him. And I know that that's because of doing family history, of participating. I wasn't even researching his line. I was just participating in family history. And I was regularly worshiping in the temple, regularly attempting to live the covenants I had made and become more like Jesus Christ. And because of that, through a process of time, my heart softened. And I remember being able to invite friends, and my father helped as well to do the ordinances for my grandfather. And I felt a peace, and I believe that my grandfather has accept those ordinances and is repenting.
That is such a beautiful experience. And I do think that rings a deep bell in my life, because my mother's father, my grandfather, also was quite an interesting fellow and created enough pain that when he passed away, when my mother was a teenager, she said in an essay she wrote in college, "What was the best day of your life?" She said, "When my dad died." Mm. And there was so much pain and the alcoholism and the abusive stuff and everything. But I was amazed when I studied his life a little more, but went back to his ancestors. They are remarkable people. There's an amazing group of people there that I just felt like I could connect to. So I thank you so much for sharing that. It is a wonderful healing process. And sometimes we talk about genealogical trauma and intergenerational trauma and all that, but aren't there also gifts that come from the past? Good things that come? How about that? Have you experienced some of that?
Yes, definitely. I've had the privilege of growing up once we moved from Milwaukee, we moved to Idaho and lived next door to my dad's parents. And that was such a gift to me because I was mentored and loved by them and taught by them. And I received gifts, and they love family history. So they would tell me stories about, for example, my grandma's 2 times great grandmother, Anne Catherine Jarvis Millen. She came across the plains in a handcart company and lived to be 113 or 116 years old. She lost her sight when she was in her 70s, and then because of advancements in medicine, when she was in her 90s, she had cataract surgery and was no longer blind. But during her time she was blind, she taught herself to needlepoint. So she's all that resilience. I'm so grateful to have had those stories because I leaned on those stories, and looked to receive those gifts that they had in my life, and I've prayed for those gifts. And another thing that I've done recently is, and not everyone has this opportunity, because not everyone's ancestors were members of the church for generations, but on my dad's side, they have been. And I've been studying the patriarchal blessings of my dad's ancestors. And in particular, my great grandmother, Nettie Ruth Nethercott, as I've been going through challenges in my life, a lot of medical challenges, and I was struck by a line in her patriarchal blessing that says something to the effect that the things that you have felt were hard for you to stand will bring you the greatest blessings. And so I've held on to that and thought, okay, if she received that gift, I'm her descendant. I can ask for that gift also. And so I've prayed almost every day to better receive that gift in my life.
Isn't that amazing? And don't you think there's something more coming through the veil as they try to encourage you directly?
Yeah.
Because those wonderful angels, when we open the door, they're able to just reach out and encourage and inspire and uplift. And wow, that's a beautiful story.
Thank you.
There's so many gifts, and we all know, I mean, there's Emory research and other research that says when somebody knows a little bit about their grandparents, knows something about their lives, it changes their capacity to be strong and have a sense of self-worth and not feel alone, and all those blessings that come. And you've just described that perfectly. Mm-hmm. And you know, when you talk about stories, what is better than discovering the stories when they become people and not a name?
Yes.
When somebody that you found really, you start to see the breadth of their life. That's when it becomes such an inspiration, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, what a blessing you've been to so many, and are blessing us all this morning by your wonderful remembrance to each one of us. We can do those kind of things, that we can reach out. Anything you'd like to share in closing? You've been so great. Thank you.
Thank you. I think just the invitation for anyone listening to examine places in our lives where we might feel the strain in relationships, and consider how participating in family history and temple worship could bring power to those areas, and how we might forgive. It's difficult to hold a grudge against someone when you know their story, and that is true of our ancestors, and that's true. And so I just invite us to bring Jesus Christ and his atonement into those relationships. And we can do that through temple worship and family history work.
And Elder Renlund and many others have promised us that we will have the power to heal those things that need to be healed. Mm-hmm. And not only that, to have an abiding testimony of Christ. And this work provides the opportunity to receive those promises. You're amazing. Thank you so much. And to all of you, share this and think about the miracles in your own life and discover those stories and find the healing that comes from the past and from the present. In fact, you might interview somebody that's alive and capture their stories too, because that is powerful. Thanks, Adele. You're a blessing. We appreciate you so much.
Thanks, Scott.